Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about with regards to evaluations is the actual conversation with the RA. So it's important to go into the meeting understanding that many of our RAs are terribly anxious about their first evaluation. So it's appropriate before the evaluation to normalize some of that anxiety, and even in the conversation, it's okay to normalize some of that. Let them know that you understand that they might be nervous. Talk about what makes them nervous. It's really important to also remember that many of our students really struggle with not being perfect, and they don't want to fail and they don't want to mess up. So the first time they hear that they need to improve on something, or sometimes if they hear that they're just meeting expectations as opposed to exceeding expectations, that can be really hard for them to hear. So it's important to really frame for the RAs that the evaluation is a tool to help them understand where the performance is, and that your goal is that it will help them to become even better resident advisors. It's also really important to avoid simply reading straight from the evaluation. You want to be true to your style, but it's not going to feel like a very genuine conversation if you're sitting there and reading straight from the evaluation, well, da 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 and da 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 da. You want to be providing a conversation. You don't want to just have this very robotic, let me read this point to you, do you have any questions? Try to allow it to be a conversation, which is going to require that you spend time before each meeting in prepping for what you need to be saying. So you're not just reading straight from the evaluation. They can read. You can provide them the evaluation following the evaluation, or perhaps some of them may want to see the evaluation before you actually have the conversation. But avoid reading straight from the evaluation. You want to make sure that you provide lots of time for questions and discussion. They haven't necessarily had an evaluation before in an employment situation, so give them time to ask questions and really process through the information that you're providing them. Be direct. You don't want to sugarcoat the feedback. You don't want to make excuses for the feedback. Be clear and direct. You're giving them important feedback, and it's going to be an important learning opportunity for them. So don't avoid being direct. Just say it as it is. Something else that is important to keep in mind in the conversation is to make sure that you're actually verbalizing what you have written. Now again, that's not reading word for word, but you don't want to sugarcoat in the conversation somebody's performance and then in writing be much more harsh. So if you have some critical feedback to share, you need to verbalize that and not simply leave that for the written feedback. Be true to your style. What is your style in giving feedback? And be true to that. You also want to honor the style and the approach of the RA. But you need to be in tune to your own personal style. You need to be comfortable in this conversation. So figure out what your style is and make sure that you're working from that style. You also want to make sure that you leave plenty of time for the RA to give you feedback. Now, the process of the RAs giving you feedback is very difficult for many of our RAs. Some of them are going to be able to give you feedback and it's going to be very easy for them, but I think the majority of them really struggle with this expectation of giving feedback to their supervisor. So you want to role model very professionally accepting the feedback that they have to offer. You want to ask clarifying questions But you don't want to be trying to dispute the feedback that they're giving you or argue the feedback that they're giving you. You need to just listen to the feedback and create a space for them to be providing you constructive feedback. So I think those are the things that I wanted to focus on in terms of the conversation. Remember that this is an incredible learning opportunity for RAs, many of which have never had this type of conversation before. You have the potential to be setting them up for great success for evaluations in the years to come. Good luck!